This concept of both pre and postnatal education stems from early back in Chinese literature. You can see writings and talkings about it back from 2,000 years ago. It was, believed back in the time that a woman should walk dignified and behave appropriately when she was carrying a child, so this would be carried on to after when the child is born too. So this idea is not new. Our thoughts of how we treat pregnant women and newborns and children stems from years and years and years ago. The scientific evidence is definitely clear that both environmental and genetic factors affect the growing brain in our newborns and in our young children. We don't have control over the genetics, so what can we do? We're born with what we're born, and we can add, promote, and try to enhance these things. We need to provide them, our children, our newborns, with the environment that's going to help them towards a successful future. I wanted to actually spend some time. My job was to sort of review some of the science that we do know. The adult human brain has 100 billion neurons in it, which are these nerve cells. It's a 3-pound mass of protoplasm, which is unique to human beings and unique to, our universe. As far as we know, there aren't any other brains like that out there somewhere in the galaxy. We have 9 months of pregnancy and a short postnatal period where the brain growth and development is largely and mostly affected by genetic determinants. However, environmental factors will also play a role during the prenatal and clearly postnatal period. But by our nutrition, what we do to our bodies, how we act, the pressures that we have during our pregnancy. But even more so clearly once the children are born, and how our environment that we put these children in, how they can affect them. There is such a complex intertwining of the genetic and environmental factors that guarantee uniqueness to each individual person and each individual brain. The nerve cells, all the nerve cells that a person will have are present at birth. So a newborn will have the same number of nerve cells that a 100-year-old person will have. So how are we making a difference with this? The most rapid growth of the cerebral cortex occurs in the first 10 years of life. What is this growth about? If we can't acquire any more nerve cells, where is this growth coming from? But each nerve cell has these receptive branches that come off of it. These receptive branches are called dendrites, and this is the network that forms the hardware for our intelligence. So, you can almost think of the sun with rays coming off of it. Each cell, each of these nerve cells, have these little extensions that come off of it. And the extensions, or the branches, are very receptive to input. So the more you input, the more extensions that you'll get. If these extensions aren't fostered, if they're not used, if they're just used, they will atrophy, they will go down. So there goes the phrase of use it or lose it. So we got to use those brains, we got to enhance them. The increase in cortical growth is a consequence of the stimulating environmental input that we give it. And this is seen at all ages, but the greatest changes occur when the cerebral cortex is growing most rapidly, and that, again, first 10 years of life. So, you will, you'll hear games like Sudoku or brain-challenging games that we use throughout, all of adulthood even too. We need to continue to use our brains to keep it stimulated and keep this growing, but this really rapid growth that is so critical and crucial is occurring during those first 10 years of life. So we'll kind of keep that theme keeps coming up these first 10 years of life, are when that change and when that growth is the greatest. Although, of course, as we get older, it's always still important to keep investigating, keep learning too. So we need to provide our children with the challenging experiences through enriched education and an enriched environment, and provide them off to the best that we possibly can do. No two brains are exactly alike, so no one person is exactly alike. And no one environment will completely satisfy all learners for an extended period of time. So that just mean that we need to sort of individualize our environment, the stimulations that we give to our children based on each individual person and their individual brain and how they learn. Some people interact physically with objects, and that's how they kind of get their joy out of things. Others, finding and processing the information is what they find to be the most rewarding. And others, creating ideas is the most enjoyable thing they can do. So, I mean, thus you have your, you have your scientists, you have your engineers, you have your mechanics, hands-on fields. You have, your advertisers that are thinking, creating. You have inventors. So we all get different charges from our environmental input. But no matter what form of enrichment it is the challenge to the nerve cells that is so important. That's how we're going to grow. That's how we're going to expand. And you'll see it in your own children. You'll have different children and different things, different ideas, different ways. We'll stimulate each of those different children in different ways. And not that we need to pigeonhole them to one category or one way of learning, but also enhance and understand how one child might benefit from a different type of learning too is really, really important. The data definitely indicates that passive observation is not enough. One must interact with the environment, and you need to stimulate and maintain that curiosity throughout life. It is interesting to see if you have someone, watching TV or watching something done, they're not going to learn it the same way as they're actually doing it. In medical school, we have the saying, see one, do one, teach one. And basically, you watch something being done, the next time you do it, and the third time you teach it. And that's the only way, you can't just watch. You can't be an observer. You've got to interact, and you've got to encourage your children to do that as well. So how can we, as parents, caregivers, educators, help develop a child to his full potential and set a pathway for lifelong learning?